Okay, you're being recorded right now. So on the phone with me is Matt Owens, longtime California Independence reporter. Matt, could you reveal your real identity? That
Sometimes
mask, yes, take off the hat and the mask.
you have to put on a mask to reveal yourself.
So,
Thankfully, this is not one of those times because that thing was hot.
so let me ask you some questions, Matt, for the audience. There's a lot of news going on right now. There was a video where someone from Yes, California in the Cal Exit movement paid a special tribute to the people of Iran. Did you see that video recently, Matt?
Yes, and I think I know the person that made that. Oh, that was you.
So one of the debates right now is that I made that video to say nice things to the Iranian people in order to entice them to join CalExit, versus I didn't say anything that the movement hasn't been saying and 1/3 of California for the last couple of years. When you watch that video of me speaking to the people of Iran, was I coming up with alien points unknown to the CalExit movement, or was I saying things that everyone in the movement and frankly a bunch of Californians say every damn day? Which one, sir?
Well, to begin with, you weren't. There are those that would accuse you of being a shill for the Iranian government, but that's not the case. Clearly, you were speaking to the Iranian people, regardless of what the government says. Okay, people who would be under threat from attack by the U.S. And what you told them basically is what we've been saying all along: is that. In the words of a great Californian, Charlie Chaplin, we don't want to conquer or rule over anyone. That's not our business. We would like to help everyone if possible. We're like that. Okay. That's really all you were saying, was reiterating to the Iranian people that we basically have always sought to help people rather than bomb them into smithereens as the U.S. government is preparing to do. That's really all you were saying. Was directing the message that we have put out for years to the Iranian people.
So when I said that Californians were the most anti-U.S. military place in America, that the biggest protest against the Vietnam War, the Iraq War, were here in California, that the hippie movement was born here, that Californians generally don't like American military invasions. Was I lying, or is that the kind of stuff we Californians say all the time?
All the time. All the time. Okay. We don't want ourselves, our kids, our parents sent to die for the interests that the United States government seeks to protect. Look, Noam Chomsky pointed out that the U.S. foreign policy only makes sense if you make one crucial assumption, that the United States owns the world. We don't make that assumption, obviously, because then they don't own us. It makes no sense to us. We're trying to avoid being done to other countries what was done to ours in 1846 to 48. Okay? We managed to grow an economy larger than that of Russia, but we pay a terrible price for it, don't we? And we can no longer afford, we really couldn't afford that price then. We certainly can't afford it now.
So let me ask you, I was talking with the outreach director for Yes California, John Pomeroy, about the video to Iran. And he made an interesting point. He said, I don't see other CalExit organizations supporting Yes California reaching out to the people of Iran, and that's their right. But what I find interesting is that Yes California was the one out of the 4 CalExit groups to reach out to the indigenous and say that federal land should be returned them. That campaign's called Return California. That too was attacked by the editorial board of a major California newspaper. And yet, no other CalExit organization has come out publicly endorsing Return California, reaching out to the indigenous with the point of talking to them about having federal land returned. Do you too find it strange that, yes, California is reaching out to the Iranians, showing a California value of reaching out to another culture, getting no support by the other CalExit organizations? And that's exactly the same reaction we had when Yes California reached out to the indigenous. We still have received, we were the only CalExit group to reach out to that group, and we still haven't had any other CalExit group backing. And if I'm not mistaken, Yes California was the group to reach out to the Baja independence movement, a series of people who are heritage white Mexicans but consider themselves Baja nationalists. And no other CalExit organization endorsed Yes California reaching out to the Baja people. Is that strange to you that Yes California seems to be the only organization reaching out to the Iranians, to the indigenous, to the people of Baja, and yet we can't seem to get any support by any other CalExit organization on any of those bridges? Thoughts, feelings?
Well, I wish I could say that it's not a consistent pattern, but I can't say that because it is. I myself am part of one of those organizations, Independent California, which isn't reaching out and has been hesitant to support YES's outreach efforts, either to the indigenous people or responding to MIBC of Baja reaching out to us. They reached out to us, and that was an outreach to everybody in the movement, and it was YES that responded favorably. Okay. I went down there as a representative, ambassador, if you would, of the entire California independence movement. I came back an ambassador to the country that we together are proposing to reunite, called Gran California. And within that lies also the proposal for an indigenous Gran California. Within it, them recuperating their sovereignty side by side with us, which is always throughout our history been the case. Okay, that the Californias and its indigenous people would recover their sovereignty together. That goes back all the way to our beginnings, all the way back to when this flag was first flown into battle in 1836.
That's okay. Right. That's hard. Yeah.
Well, that's always been our history. And it is kind of strange because the same battle that we're fighting for the indigenous, for to reunite, was the same battles they were fighting back then. The folks that wanted our independence were the same folks that were fighting to return mission land to the indigenous people, the same people. The folks that were fighting in my region in SoCal didn't want independence, didn't want the return of the land. So, we see the steps of history coming full circle and in a much, much worse situation. They were fighting in a usurpacious president then. We are fighting one now, except this one is much worse because this one has nuclear weapons and can threaten the world with them.
Okay. Last question, because I'm trying to get it in. Last question. Given that the Esalen Institute was a bunch of Californians and they said, hey, reach out to the Soviet Empire. And then Ronald Reagan from California did that. And given that Nixon was from California and he's the one that reached out to China, and given that Governor Brown went to Russia to talk about climate change the day after the federal government kicked all Russian ambassadors out, and given that Gavin Newsom traveled to Latin America right after he was elected, said on TV, consider us having a separate foreign policy from America, as Americans just elected a xenophobe. Can we say that it's California culture to make bridges, to reach out to other people that perhaps Americans say don't talk to them at all? Or is it in fact not California culture? Which one?
Oh, it's what distinguishes us. It's what defines us. We will,